Grizzly. Don't you think these bears have become something of a symbol of strength and ferocity? When you imagine an encounter with a grizzly, you immediately want to imagine being as far away from it as possible. Because that can't end well. This is for humans, because in nature, things are a bit more complicated. There are animals that can challenge a grizzly and survive. Some of them will win by size, others by aggression. One opponent will be a complete surprise, I promise. A gentle reminder to do something below the video. Did you know that grizzlies can outweigh 3 grown men? Mass, muscle, colossal stature. In theory, this is enough to send shivers down your spine. But in reality, it's even more terrifying, and there's no mistaking it. Grizzlies aren't just giants, they're remarkably agile and can reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. They have the strength to be both sprinters and marathon runners. Their endurance allows them to cover vast distances, and their bodies are adapted to navigate any terrain. So, they're big, fast, and have a nasty temperament. The main threat comes from the grizzly's aggressiveness and monstrous physical strength. A grizzly's bite force can reach approximately 68 atmospheres. This is enough to easily crush bones and tear flesh. According to some reports, such a bite is capable of crushing even a bowling ball. And if that's not enough, the bear has claws. Long, sharp, practically bladed weapons. A single swing is enough to inflict fatal injuries on any opponent. In short, the grizzly is the embodiment of strength, speed, and ferocity. It seems there's simply no one in nature to counter them, and stories about grizzlies sound like urban legends. For example, in 2002, a hunter shot a female bear point blank in the head, and she survived. For any other animal, this would have been an instant death, but not for a grizzly. Or, have you heard that special garbage containers in Yellowstone are made so heavy that animals can't tip them over? Each one weighs over 360 kilograms. But grizzlies can handle this too. For them, it's a matter of strength and tenacity. Simply turn it over, break it open, and get out what's inside. There are known cases of grizzlies being hit by cars traveling at around 100 kilometers per hour. The bear would then get up and walk away. And in Banff National Park, the animal was hit by a train twice, but neither weakened nor diminished its ferocity. Grizzlies are also capable of dragging a bison carcass. Males of these ungulates weigh between 450 and 900 kilograms, but the bear handles them as if they were nothing. This is an illustration of their strength. A predator that can move nearly a ton of live or dead meat. Grizzlies are so tough that even scientists officially acknowledge it. The species' Latin name, Ursus arctos rabilis, literally translates as terrible bear or fearful bear. And when you have the word terrible in your name, that says a lot. Generally, when it comes to who could beat a grizzly, the first things that come to mind are tigers or lions. The internet is full of videos and debates on this topic, but frankly, a tiger doesn't stand a chance against a grizzly. Yes, the tiger is the largest cat on the planet, but male grizzlies are typically twice as large and much better built for a real fight. They have endurance, a thick neck, a protective layer of fat, and brute strength, which makes all the difference in close combat. And this isn't just theory, because in the wild, tigers have already encountered bears. In the Far East, Amur tigers fight with brown bears, and in India, with sloth bears. Grizzly bears are one of the largest subspecies of brown bear. Only the Kamchatka and Kodiak bears are larger. This means that while even smaller relatives can fight back against tigers, grizzly will simply tear his opponents to pieces. I'd suggest leaving lions out of the picture, they don't stand the slightest chance one-on-one. Yes, perhaps pride could overwhelm grizzly with sheer numbers, but that wouldn't be a fair fight. That's a whole other story. So there won't be any big cats today. Grizzlies require completely different opponents. Like other grizzlies. As proof, I can cite a famous inhabitant of Banff National Park, officially named Bear 122. He also has the nickname Boss and is considered the largest bear in the entire park. Estimated to be around 23 years old, he is the first to emerge from hibernation, wandering the hills or claiming the territory as his own. But Boss doesn't just roam, he also kills and then eats other bears. Scientists have documented such incidents several times. For example, in 2013, in Sundance Canyon, Boss is believed to have killed and eaten a smaller bear. All that remained of that bear was a skull, skin, for paws, and a few bones. According to experts, the fight was unlikely to have lasted long. Boss was approximately 5 times larger than the 20-kilogram young Boreable. While it would have been fine if it had only involved borables, Boss had also fought fiercely with other grizzlies, including a larger rival, a 220-kilogram bear named Splitlip. And Boss won. Today, he's the most dominant male in the Bow River Valley. No one else in the food chain can displace him, and his reputation is terrifying. If Grizzly himself is capable of destroying his own kind, then who can stop him from the outside? The answer is obvious: another giant, equal in strength and terrifying in size. The polar bear, Ursus maritimus, is the planet's largest land predator. The grizzly bear is a close relative, smaller, but still similar. DNA analysis shows that they were once a single species that diverged approximately 400,000 years ago. This may explain why both species can be equally formidable opponents. Of course, in terms of size, the polar bear is more impressive, with a body length of 2.4 to 3 meters and a shoulder height of up to 160 centimeters. The grizzly bear is slightly smaller, reaching a maximum length of 2.8 meters and a shoulder height of 153 centimeters. The polar bear is more massive, but the grizzly is better built for ground combat, as it is generally used to fighting with its own kind, territoriality, aggression, and you get the idea. Each has its own advantages. The grizzly bear has long, sharp claws adapted for digging and killing, as well as longer paws and ears, which helps it in agile fights. The polar bear has a longer skull and muzzle, is an excellent swimmer, and can confidently stay on slippery ice. And it's huge. No, really. So, if these two were to fight, it would be a clash of titans, with the polar bear likely to win. He'd simply have the advantage of sheer size and bulk, and the grizzly would be unlikely to put up any resistance. But everything, of course, depends on the specific situation and the cause of the conflict, because in the wild, things are not so clear-cut. Such clashes have indeed been occurring in the Arctic in recent years. Grizzlies are increasingly moving north, expanding their range, while polar bears, conversely, are moving further south. Eventually, their territories begin to overlap, especially in coastal areas where both species search for food. Sometimes, such encounters even lead to the creation of hybrids, but that's not the point here. A common cause of collisions is whale carcasses. For polar bears, this is a vital source of energy, especially during the time of year when they rarely hunt and live off their stored fat. Grizzlies come to these carcasses for a different reason. They urgently need to gain weight before hibernation. And it is here that scientists have recorded the most dramatic encounters. For example, during observations, a dozen adult polar bears suddenly bolted when a single grizzly passed by. Most astonishingly, it was half the size of the bears and didn't even show aggression, simply passing by. But the polar bears chose to retreat. Research shows this isn't an isolated incident. More often than not, grizzlies win fights over whale carcasses and force polar bears to flee. Why? Scientists have several hypotheses. First, their character. Grizzlies are generally more aggressive. They're meaner, more argumentative, and much more willing to fight. And this is no coincidence. It's just how evolution works. Throughout the Pleistocene, they had to compete with other large predators, wolves, saber-toothed cats, even other bears. Ultimately, only the toughest survived. Polar bears hunted on sea ice, where such rivals simply weren't available. They rarely had to compete, so their habits were different. Moreover, polar bears have access to high-energy prey almost all year round. Seal fat is the best fuel for their bodies, which they easily accessed without worrying too much about others vying for it. Grizzlies are a different matter. They are omnivores, and finding a rich energy source is their greatest asset. Therefore, they defended fiercely, unlike polar bears, who, when confronted by an unexpected and overly aggressive neighbor, prefer to simply retreat. For them, fighting is a waste of energy, and no one wastes energy in the cold. Secondly, it's the time of year. Grizzlies migrate in the fall because they need to gain maximum energy to survive their long hibernation and do so in a very short time. Polar bears don't hibernate. At the end of summer, on the contrary, they try to conserve energy, minimize expenses, and wait for the sea ice to return. Polar bears know that their main prey will appear in the spring, when ringed seals are available. Therefore, it's easier to avoid conflict and wait. But grizzlies have nowhere to retreat. They need to eat now, otherwise they risk not surviving until spring. And finally, grizzlies can simply afford to take risks. Their diet is incredibly varied, so even if a bear is injured and loses the ability to hunt large prey, it can still survive. It can switch to plants, carrion, small animals. There are many options. Yes, life will become more difficult, but it's not a death sentence. It's different for the polar bear. Its hunting is geared toward seals, and any serious injury could mean the end. Losing the ability to successfully catch seals on the ice means a very slow death, as it has almost no alternative food sources. So, everything is clear with polar bears, but if grizzlies venture further north, other formidable opponents await them. I'm talking about walruses. While polar bears and grizzlies seem heavy and very large, walruses are on a whole other level. An adult male can weigh over 2 tons. This is approximately 3 times heavier than a polar bear and several times more massive than any grizzly bear. The walrus is the largest pinniped in the Arctic. Nevertheless, polar bears try to hunt them. And there's logic to this. Lions and wolves also attack prey much larger than themselves. What's surprising is that bears always hunt alone. Imagine how effective polar bears would be if they worked in packs. But that never happens. Walruses, on the other hand, are herd animals. They lie in dense groups on the shore, and a single bear often forces them to abandon their spot. The huge mass begins to move, the herd panics, and the bear is powerless to do anything about it. Even the largest polar bear won't take a healthy adult walrus. There have been cases where a bear has dug its claws into a walrus's back, but the walrus calmly dragged it to the sea. Once the walrus reached the water, the hunt was over. And this is a polar bear. Grizzlies, as you may recall, are much smaller. But the stubborn polar bears found a weak spot in their uncooperative prey. Walruses are forced to return to land to rest. Constant attacks and pursuit separate weak or sick individuals from the group, sometimes trampling them to death by their older, stronger relatives. Then the polar bear gets its chance. He can kill a weakened walrus by using their own instincts against the herd. This rare photo shows a polar bear lying exhausted next to a dead walrus. So, the predator certainly won, but it took a hell of a lot of effort. There's another problem. Once a walrus is cornered, everything changes. Normally, they run away, but when it comes to their cubs or their own survival, the walrus turns into a fierce fighter. Its saber-like tusks, up to 90 centimeters long, pierce their opponents with incredible force. If a polar bear makes even the slightest mistake, it risks sustaining life-threatening injuries. As for grizzlies, they stand no chance against such weapons. These tusks help walruses escape from the water, break through the ice below, and create breathing holes. But if necessary, they can also serve a different purpose, turning into deadly weapons capable of breaking not only ice but also skulls. But grizzlies are certainly tough where they live. They're lucky in their habitat. However, there are animals in the world capable of killing grizzlies, but they live much further than the bears themselves. We'll travel to Asia and dive underwater to find one of them. This is a mushroom-covered crocodile, and a veritable time machine with paws. It's often called a living fossil, and for good reason. Mushroom-covered crocodiles have roamed the earth for over 200 million years. They've survived the rise and fall of countless species, yet they themselves have remained virtually unchanged. Their bodies and habits were so perfect that they simply required no refinement. And it's precisely this evolutionary perfection that makes them such good opponents. What helped crocodiles survive through the ages will also help them against grizzlies. They outlived the dinosaurs. What do they care? Just some bears. Plus, the mushroom-covered crocodile is the largest living reptile. Enormous males grow up to 6 meters in length and weigh between 1,000 and 1,500 kilograms. This is a giant predator that doesn't discriminate between prey. It simply ambushes, grabs, drowns, or swallows its prey. Any animal that dares to enter its territory, even other predators, can evolve into a predator. A grizzly bear, why not? A crocodile's main weapon is its jaws. The fungus-bearing crocodile has the most powerful bite of any living creature on the planet. In fact, scientists compare its bite force to the legendary Tyrannosaurus Rex. If you imagine a grizzly bear going up against such a monster, it's clear the bear has little chance. But the mushroom-growing crocodile has another trump card: armor. Its body is covered not just with scales, but with plates made of keratin, the same material that makes up our hair and nails. Hidden beneath the scutes are osteoderms, bone deposits reinforced with hydroxyapatite, the same substance that makes human bones strong. Scientists studying alligator shells have reported that these structures have a porosity of approximately 12% and are capable of absorbing shock. Essentially, They act as a natural shock absorber. The unique shape of the osteoderms, with their grooves and depressions, allows them to interlock with each other in the skin, distributing the load across the entire surface. This disperses powerful blows, reducing the risk of serious injury. These scales primarily protect internal organs during fights with other crocodiles. And the evidence can be seen right there. Teeth marks are quite common. Can we say with certainty that such armor will completely protect against grizzly claws? No, but it's certainly better than bear skin without any protection. Moreover, crocodiles often survive even serious injuries. This is possible thanks to an internal defense mechanism that fascinates scientists no less than their armor. In short, one of the main secrets lies in their blood, which contains powerful antioxidants. These antioxidants help crocodiles recover from injuries that would be fatal to other animals. So, taking it all together, the mushroom-growing crocodile has a clear advantage on all fronts. First, water. A grizzly bear is an excellent runner, but it can't hold its breath like a crocodile. Therefore, all the reptile needs to do is drag the bear into the water and hold it there long enough. A crocodile's bite is so powerful that it's almost impossible to escape. So, the grizzly will certainly fight to the end, but sooner or later its strength will run out and the bear will choke. Secondly, armor. The bony skits of the crocodile's osteoderm don't make it invulnerable, but grizzly claw strikes won't cause critical damage. This time is enough for the crocodile to use its main weapon and hold the bear on the bottom until its last breath. While the mushroom-covered crocodile is fearsome in the water, it has a rival in Africa that is equally adept on land and in the water, the common hippopotamus. The third largest land animal after elephants and white rhinoceroses, it may appear slow and even a little comical at first glance, but this is an illusion. In reality, the hippopotamus is fast, ferocious, and dangerous from any direction. It's no wonder it's considered one of Africa's deadliest animals. An adult hippopotamus weighs between 1.4 and 5 tons. It's a giant, capable of opening its jaws to almost 150 degrees. And this mouth isn't just a frightening trick, it's a weapon. The lower canines, over 30 centimeters long, are sharp and strong, serving as their primary tool in fights with other hippos. Hippos fight constantly, especially if their territory is overcrowded and they have to compete for resources. But their aggression isn't limited to their own kind. Hippos attack anything they perceive as a threat, from cows on the shore to boats carrying people. And the grizzly would certainly be no exception in this situation. Besides, escaping from hippos isn't as easy as it seems. On land, it can reach speeds of up to 30 kilometers per hour, 18 miles per hour, and it does so quickly, while in the water, it can travel at speeds of up to 8 kilometers per hour, 5 miles per hour. Add in the statistics, around 500 people die from hippo attacks every year. And it becomes clear that this giant is far from harmless. But one of the hippopotamus's most frightening traits is its unpredictability. Predators typically warn of an attack by screaming, adopting a threatening posture, and glaring. You know the drill. Well, a hippopotamus has none of that. It can attack without the slightest provocation, and defending against it is almost impossible. The victim simply doesn't have time to prepare. Hippopotamus attacks most often begin with ramming or biting. They easily capsize boats and break wooden structures, and victims caught in their path suffer fractures, lacerations, and puncture wounds. If the attack occurs in deep or fast-moving water, the risk of drowning is high. Incidentally, a hippopotamus bite force is estimated at 136 atmospheres. That's enough to rip a human in half. Even crocodiles prefer to keep their distance. They know exactly who they're dealing with. An adult hippopotamus is not prey. In rare cases, if a crocodile gets too close to a calf, the mother or dominant male will attack. And yes, crocodiles die. Those same ones with reliable protection, regeneration, and a time machine, who outlived the dinosaurs. They're cool, but not against a hippopotamus. But what about the grizzly? The hippopotamus lacks bony armor like a crocodile, and the bear could certainly inflict serious wounds. But that's not the point. The hippopotamus's size, powerful jaws, and enormous teeth suggest it would retaliate by injuring the grizzly so severely that it would likely not survive. But wait, it's too early to leave Africa. Yes, I said we won't be considering lions, but there are other animals here that can kill a grizzly. The bear's next opponent will be another African heavyweight, the rhinoceros. There are 5 species of rhinoceros, the largest of which is the white rhinoceros. It has a broad chest, short legs, thick, armor-like skin, and 1 or 2 gray horns made of keratin, the same substance that makes up crocodile skits. Only 3 species of modern elephants exceed the white rhinoceros in mass. Males reach 3.7 meters in length and up to 186 centimeters at the shoulder. Their weight ranges from 2 to 2.5 tons. The anterior horn grows to an average of 60 centimeters, but in some individuals it extends up to 166 centimeters. This is a powerful weapon, difficult to counter. Like hippos, rhinos are known for their aggressive nature. If something gets too close, they don't run away, they attack. Even an unintentional encounter with such a giant can result in serious injuries. Numerous stories confirm this. In 1998, a rhinoceros killed an adult lion in Africa. A group of young lions charged a rhinoceros, apparently out of ignorance, but instead of retreating, the rhinoceros snorted and charged the nearest predator. It turned out to be an adult male lion. A horn sank into its rump, and a second later, the lion was already flying away. Only then did the rhino retreat. The wounded lion tried to move for a while, but the blood loss was too severe. He died a few hours later. This isn't the only example. In 2017, a conservationist who played a key role in the reintroduction of the eastern black rhinoceros to Rwanda was killed by the animal. In short, rhinos can kill both lions and humans. If you imagine a grizzly bear standing in their way, well, the outcome would be the same. A horn can inflict wounds so severe that no one would survive. But what about real enemies, not hypothetical ones? In Yellowstone, cameras at Old Faithful Geyser once captured a scene that clearly showed who was boss. A herd of bison decided a nearby grizzly had gone too far and gave it a show chase. Yep, herbivores were chasing a predator. More than 20 bison were peacefully grazing on the snow-covered grass in the upper geyser basin when a bear appeared near the Firehole River. The grizzly kept to himself, simply walking along the shore. But this was enough to attract the attention of one of the bison. At first, it seemed the animals would disperse, keeping their distance, but suddenly the herd closed in and charged the bear. The grizzly quickly took the hint, turned, and retreated as quickly as possible to the nearest tree line. A very smart move, by the way. Because yes, grizzlies are the apex predators of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, but bison are larger, and sometimes it only takes one ungulate with a feisty personality to trigger the entire herd to attack. Biologists confirm this. Grizzlies don't attack bison herds because they're too smart for that. They can only kill bison when they're old, sick, or injured. There's a known case in 2020 where a grizzly bear actually overpowered a lone bison. But such cases are rare. And although bison are supposedly herbivores, it's hard to call them harmless. It's like with rhinoceroses and hippos, only in North America. They are the largest mammals here, and if danger threatens, no one should stand in their way. Females fiercely protect their calves, using their weight and speed to ward off any predator. Bison can reach speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, 56 kilometers per hour, and they are remarkably agile for their size. Although bison may look like cows, that impression is deceiving. Bison are unpredictable and become especially aggressive during calving or mating season. There is no predator that would easily hunt them. Neither grizzlies nor even a pack of wolves consider bison easy prey. They are huge, fast, and well armed. Moreover, the herd is always ready to defend vulnerable calves. As for males, they tend to be solitary, but they are the largest, weighing up to a ton. Add to this their sullen nature, and it becomes clear that a single bison is quite capable of taking down a grizzly bear, and grizzlies know it. Now it's time for perhaps the most unexpected animal on today's list. This is a giraffe. Giraffes are charming creatures, often associated with grace and elegance. They have no fangs, claws, or armor, and in a direct confrontation with a grizzly, it seems any attack from the predator would be fatal. But this gentle giant has one very powerful weapon, a kick, and that's no exaggeration. Giraffes defend themselves fiercely, using their long legs and hard, sharp hooves up to 30 centimeters long. They can lunge in all directions, and each kick is delivered with such force that it can actually kill. This is how giraffes successfully fend off lions and hyenas. Lions, incidentally, generally only attack them in large groups, and even then extremely rarely, because the risk is too great. There have been cases where a giraffe's kick has killed a lion, or even decapitated it on the spot. And now imagine a grizzly bear, its size, teeth, Klaus, all of it immediately becomes irrelevant, because one well-placed blow to the head, and the most fearsome bear on the planet doesn't stand a chance. You deserve a like. See you soon.